Hello. I wanted to make a quick video going over fiber to the curb. So I just want to touch base on the technologies used, give you a bit more information on them, and where fiber to the curb is going to fit in that mix. So what I've got here is a theoretical map of people theoretically connected to the NBN using the main technologies. Now, what I have left out of this is the hybrid fiber coaxial, and that's because I don't really know anything about it. Essentially, as far as I can tell, I think it's like fiber to the node, but instead of having a node in your street connected to the phone lines, the node in your street is connected to the cable TV line, like the Optus Vision line or the Telstra internet line or Optus cable internet line. Now, I actually think, from what I've read, that the places that are most likely to get fiber to the curb first will be places that were earmarked for some form of hybrid fiber coaxial, if it were Optus's coax network, so the old Optus Vision coaxial cables. But I'm not too sure on that. But anyway, I just want to go over the main technologies, excluding the coaxial ones. So we've got the best possible connection is fiber to the home, and that's where they run a fiber optic cable from the point of interconnect, which in this theoretical map I'm going to say is the Telstra exchange. Now, I'm not 100% sure if the point of interconnect is actually at the Telstra exchange or if it's somewhere else. But the Telstra exchange is where all the phone lines used to go. So we've got our main location in town, let's say the Telstra exchange for sake of argument, and this has got a big, nice, beefy link outside of town to the rest of the world. So all the internet in town is going to come in through this. Now, what we've got is we've got a fiber optic cable that will run in the old fiber optic cable that should run in the like the ducts, the conduits and stuff in the ground to a house, and that would be fiber to the premises. So right now, this can achieve the maximum NBN plans you can purchase of 100 meg connection. So this technology is great for 100 meg, and in the future, when we get gigabit, it'll just be flick of a switch, more or less, and this will be able to get gigabit. And down the line, in multiple years to come, when you can get 10 gigabit, 20 gigabit, or even terabit connections, the physical line that's in the ground will be able to support that. The only difference will be changing the equipment located in the house and the equipment located in the point of interconnect, where the fiber ends. So it's essentially like if we get terabit internet connections available in the future, people with fiber to the home will basically just have to get a new modem. Then we've got the second best technology, the one I'm mainly going to be talking about, which is fiber to the curb. Now, as far as I'm aware, fiber to the curb will not be able to, wouldn't be able to get, in theory, terabit speeds or anything, but it's going to be able to get gigabit, hopefully, down the line. I'll go into that a bit more and what you can expect with fiber to the curb. However, fiber to the curb I don't think is going to be put in anywhere until 2018. And since the NBN, as far as I can remember, was supposed to be finished in 2016 and then pushed forward to 2020, it's probably only going to be the last few areas that even have the option to get this put in, but I'll talk about that later. We've got our most common connection, fiber to the node, which runs fiber optic cable to a cabinet on your street that looks like this picture here. And then you use your existing old copper line that runs to your house. So for me personally, this is the technology I'm on. I have a 750 meter approximately cable run. Now, this plan, technology, the node, you can sign up to the current 100 meg plan, and you won't actually get 100 meg. It all depends on how far away you are from the cabinet. The longer the copper run, the more noise and interference it will pick up, and the slower your internet speed will be. So, for example, my approximate 750 meter run gives me around a 75 meg internet connection. So this is the most common. And this is also available with the highest speed plans you can buy today on the NBN, the 100 meg plans. However, very shortly, I believe, in the next few years, we will be seeing a lot more options for gigabit internet, which would be fantastic. I mean, really, we should already be having gigabit internet. Unfortunately, anyone on this technology is going to find out that they've got a dated technology that will not do gigabit. In fact, the fastest that it's able to do is what we're pushing out now. So this technology barely makes it into today's era. This technology that's already getting installed, like is installed and is still being installed, this is already obsolete. Then even worse than this technology, we have the wireless technology. And the way the wireless technology works is if you have NBN wireless, you've got a diamond-shaped antenna sitting on the roof of your house, and there's almost like a phone tower just for NBN set up somewhere in the vicinity of, this is normally in like the outer areas of country towns, I've noticed, like where you might have like a 1 acre block or a 2 acre block just outside of town. They seem to be doing wireless in areas like that. Now, the wireless technology requires a fiber optic cable run to the tower and then wireless transmission to the premises. This, unfortunately, only has a maximum speed of 50. So even if you had this technology and you wanted to sign up for today's current NBN plans of 100 meg, you can't. The best you can get is half that at 50. And the people I know with this technology say that they aren't getting 50. They can see 30 odd, 40 even, but that's rare, with congestion issues at the tower, not with the ISP level, but NBN level. Congestion issues are causing people I know who use this technology to have connections at peak time down in the 2 meg, as low as like the 2 meg, 2 meg mark. So that's pretty cool. But you know, it's still like it's usable. So you know, it's something. And then if you're really rural, like on a farm, you're probably going to end up with NBN satellite. And NBN satellite works by having a satellite dish that can do two-way communication that's both up and down, like sending information as well as receiving it. And it's going to communicate with a satellite in geosynchronous orbit above the Earth, and then that's going to communicate back down to Earth to like a satellite transmission station, and that transmission station is going to be connected to the rest of the world with a fiber link. So issues with the satellite is that it's slow, like the latency, just purely the time it takes to get up to the satellite and then back down, takes too long. For it to be considered a fast link. Also, the bandwidth limitations, you can only get a 25 meg connection on that, and that's at maximum. So like that's right, things are getting worse. We've gone from our gigabit to like a theoretical good gigabit speeds on fiber, or down to our 25 meg on the satellite. Now the satellite links, from the plans I've seen, have got data caps, so you might only get an 80 gig limit per month. If you're getting satellite internet through NBN, you're basically not getting internet. You're getting a headache, and you are better off if you get phone service with a phone company. Then you'd be better off getting like Optus 4G or something. So now on to the main part of this, the fiber to the curb. So what is fiber to the curb? Well, fiber to the curb means that the fiber, as I said in this picture here, the fiber is run from the point of interconnect almost up to your house. So it's run into say the Telstra pit on the ground. Now, the pit on the ground normally has a very short run from that to your house. So for instance, in my situation, I have a pit out the front of my house. If I were in a fiber to the curb network, I would actually only have less than 20 meters of copper, meaning since the copper is the determining factor in speed, because it's slow, and the longer it is, the more noise and interference it will pick up, and therefore the less you're going to end up with in the way of speed. Having a 20-meter odd run is going to be pretty fast. In fact, over gigabit speed is achievable. So with the fiber to the curb, currently it's not anywhere in the NBN yet. It will be installed in 2018. So it's planned to happen in 2018. Now, there's a few things with the fiber to the curb. What they've said here on the fiber to the on the NBN website is that the fiber to the curb it's essentially going to go into areas that have Optus cable. So if you were in an area that had Optus Vision television, and then later on you get the Optus cable internet, and you don't have NBN yet, you're probably going to be the candidates that get the fiber to the curb. So something on that is, I don't think that's fair, because you're the group of people that had decent cable internet when the rest of us were stuck on DSL, and now you're going to get fiber almost to your house when we're stuck on fiber into our street. But anyway, congratulations, you're getting a superior network to most of the country. So fiber to the curb, when it first comes out, when it will be first released in 2018, the government, NBNco is planning on having it based on VDSL technology. So what that means is, initially, when it's set up, when it's installed, it won't be any better than fiber to the node. You see, fiber to the node is running on VDSL technology, which is basically a version of DSL. So anyone who's had ADSL in the past, it's essentially the upgraded version of that. It's still technically DSL. In fact, the A still applies, because A stands for asynchronous, which means your downloads are going to be faster than your uploads, which is the case with NBN. So you're going to end up with a fast version of ADSL. But unlike people like me who are stuck on this fiber to the node technology, VDSL is all we can get. Now, there are no ways that I'm currently aware of, and there are no ways that I believe NBNco are looking into, that allow the fiber to the node setups where you've got your house with a long, up to 1 kilometer of old copper. I don't believe there's any technologies available that will pick that speed up from the 100 meg link. So as soon as we start getting links now advertised over 100 meg, which will happen soon when we get gigabit, anyone on fiber to the node is going to be out of luck. They're going to be stuck on the slow 100 meg links that they've got now. They won't be getting an upgrade. But what they've said with the fiber to the curb customers is that they will be, the NBN are going to use, here we go. The NBN is going to use acceleration technologies like G.fast and XG.fast. Now, what does that mean? That's a way of pushing substantially more bandwidth down the two copper wires that you've currently got. So the standard phone line, the same kind of phone line that I am using at my house because I have fiber to the node technology, that exact same set of wires is going to have an upgraded technology implemented that will allow it to go substantially faster. The problem with this, though, is that these technologies are so susceptible to interference that you will have unusable internet at any decent distance. So for me, at 750 meters away from my node, if in theory they did want to put this G.fast or XG.fast into the fiber to the node portion of the network, by the time it got to my house, it would be as bad or slower than I'm getting now because of the interference it's going to be picking up. Whereas if you've got your fiber to the distribution point, which is now going to be called fiber to the curb, you've only got this very, very short distance of copper. And because it's only a short distance, you can actually have these faster technologies enabled. So I want to go into what the faster technologies are. So we have got the first of the fast technologies that are likely to be introduced is G.fast. Now, G.fast does allow for substantial speeds. In fact, the NBN have said that you're going to be able to get up to a gigabit speed within 100 meters. So if you are within 100 meters of the pit and you will be in a fiber to the curb area, in theory, you'll be able to get the next wave of plans available on the NBN, the gigabit plan. Now, you may not be able to get them initially, but once they've turned on G.fast, you will be able to get those plans. Meaning your connection, although the copper line would be a determining factor for people over 100 meters, anyone under 100 meters from that will be able to get speeds comparable to people on fiber. Now, this doesn't bode very well for the future when I said in theory, if people were to get terabit internet speeds, you've only got to change the device in the home and in the exchange. You won't be able to get terabit speeds over this. It relies on on copper. However, with the copper being only a short run, this does mean that in theory, it would be a lot cheaper to extend the fiber run from the pit up front of your house just into your house, which I'm sure would be an option for most people to pay a couple $100,000, whatever, to bring the fiber right into their house. So the first of the technologies, as I said, was going to be is G.fast. Then there is the XG.fast, and there was an XG.fast trial. Now the XG.fast is another way to deliver this speed over this technology. Now basically the XG.fast, it's just, you can almost think about it as like ADSL1, ADSL2, like. It's just improving the speed that can be pushed down the same crappy copper lines. Now, in their tests of this, they were able to get up to 8 gig per second in a lab environment over a very short run. I think it was like 20 or 30 meters. Now, having a look at this, BT, which I believe is British Telecom, which is the main phone carrier in the UK, they became the first global operator to conduct XG.fast trials. So they were able to get 5.6 gig per second, which by today is a really, really, really good speed by today's standards. Again, this is not going to be a great speed in 20 or 30 years, but you know, for being short-sighted, this is really good. This is more than is available to most places in the world. So they were able to, in their trial, get 5.6 gig at over 35 meters of copper. So in theory, if in the real world, you're able to get things as close to the laboratory as possible. So what I mean by that is, if in the real world, we're able to get close to the lab tests, in theory, if your house was within 35 meters of the curb, of the fiber to the curb setup, you would be able to get, in theory, over 5 gig per second. Now, there was also another phone company that did a similar test, and they were able to get 8 gig over 50 meters. So the technology looks pretty good if you're under 100 meters. So more or less, in wrapping this up, if you're in an area that's going to get fiber to the curb, and your house is within 100 meters cable length wise of where the fiber is going to go in, you're pretty close to on par with people who get fiber into the house. In fact, for the time being, if they enable the G.fast technology on there, for the time being, you will actually be on par with fiber. You will not be able to get speeds any faster or any slower than people on fiber. That being said, in the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, I expect people are still going to want internet, and I expect people are still going to want fast internet. Now, internet that was good 10 years ago is not good today. Internet that was considered good 20, 30, 40 years ago, it's not internet today. So the main thing here is the technology they're putting in, because it relies on copper, is flawed. The technology they're putting in is eventually going to have to be ripped out. But for the time being, it's sufficient. If you're able to get this technology, you should be, for the next decade at least, in decent internet area. After that, you're going to start noticing that people with fiber directly to their home are getting proper connections. They're getting, whatever the current speed is at the time, 10 gig, 20 gig, 40 gig, 100 gig connections, terabit connections. These won't be achievable at all. But by that time, I'm sure we're probably going to move. I mean, because fiber to the curb, it's going to be such a small rollout compared to fiber to the node. And fiber to the curb is going to be so close to fiber for the first couple of years anyway. The main issues that anyone's going to face is going to be people on wireless, satellite, and the really common fiber to the node. So people on fiber to the node are going to be basically screwed. So I think eventually we're going to start moving to wireless technologies like Telstra's current 4G internet. So once we start doing that, which we're going to kind of be forced to because of the old copper, we're probably going to find that this whole NBN network, it's slowly like areas will stop using it. I mean, I really don't see that they're so short-sighted with this awful mixed technology setup, that the only people that are going to have internet connections that are considered good in a decade are the people on fiber to the home and the future people on fiber to the curb. People on fiber to the node already have outdated connections. It's already bad by proper broadband standards. Like it's better than what we're used to. But if you look at what other countries have, what's common and what's going to happen in the decade, this is bad. And everyone below this, like the wireless satellite, it's worse. So yeah, I hope this video has helped inform you a little more about the upcoming fiber to the curb. If you are lucky enough to get fiber to the curb, look, it's not like anyone gets an option here. If you're in a fiber to the curb area, you get fiber to the curb. If you're like me, fiber to the node, you get fiber to the node. You're stuck with what you get. I mean, I'm not happy with fiber to the node, but it's better than ADSL. Like, I was getting a 4 meg connection on ADSL. In theory, at one point, we were getting a 10 meg connection. So, the ADSL in my area was capable of 10 meg. Now with this, I'm getting a 75 meg connection. I'll do a speed test now. Let's see, it's 10:45 a.m. on Sunday, and I'm getting 74. Yeah, okay, so that's 73 meg connection. I've ordered a second NBN connection because 73 meg is not good enough for me. I want over 100. So I'm going to get 2 connections. I'll be load balancing, and that'll give me, a good enough speed. That'll make me happy for now. Unfortunately, I've only got 2 phone lines coming into the house. In the future, if I did want to do 3, 4, 5 connections to try and get closer to that gigabit speed, I can't unless I dig up the front lawn to run more cable, and I won't be doing that. Yeah, so like this technology, to point out that, people with the fiber to the node technology, these people like me, people who are serious about having good internet, they're already saying, well, this is not fast enough, and people like me are getting multiple lines in. People on the fiber to the curb technology, when that's released, are going to do much better. They will get comparable internet for probably the next decade. So anyone on fiber to the curb should be pretty happy with it. Just as a side note, something I didn't mention, the fiber to the curb technology, so fiber to the node, for instance, you've got the equipment inside this cabinet, and you've got to have a 240 volt power source. So every one of these nodes has actually got to have the electrical company run power to it. So if you actually see one of these nodes on the side of the street, you'll notice the closest power pole to it normally has overhead power going to that, and then that goes underground to this. So this has its own power connection, and it's got backup batteries. So even if the power were to go out in the area for the next 3 or so hours, the batteries will keep this equipment up. So if you have a battery backup at home, your internet would still be working. The fiber to the curb is going to be different in the way it receives power. The way it receives power will be basically like PoE, where you'll have, there'll be a device in the pit that I'm hoping is waterproof because the pits fill up with rainwater. But there'll be a device in the pit, and it will connect the fiber to your phone line. Then your phone line will have like a modem type device plugged into it in your house. That device is going to inject power down the phone line into the pit, and it's going to power the device in the pit. So in theory, if you have a battery backup, and your battery backup could last 24 hours, well, then that should mean you should have internet for 24 hours. It shouldn't just drop off. Unlike this also means it's cheaper to deploy in the sense that they don't need the power company to run power to every one of these devices, where they did with the fiber to the curb setup, fiber to the node setups. Also, the fiber to the node setups require backup batteries, which need to be changed. Like, you put the batteries in, that's one cost, but then every 5 years or so, they're going to be changed. There's no batteries in this technology. There is no batteries to change. So really, in most ways you could look at it, the fiber to the curb is a much superior technology. But, even better again, in my opinion, is obviously fiber directly into the premises. But anyway, hope the video's been somewhat informative. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe, like my videos, comment, and if you don't like them, feel free to dislike the video and still write a comment. Well, thanks for watching.